You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things. You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Well, after a week filled with hiccups, what do you expect? Okay, there we go. That was a rather abrupt ending. Happy Friday. Welcome back to those of you returning, and to those of you here for the very first time, a special welcome to you. I need to know that you can actually hear me, so somebody give me a Y in the chat box. Michael can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's good. I wonder if anybody else can.
I don't know. Let's bring up the chat box here.
I don't have a Y in the chat box.
And we don't have any Ys.
Anybody got a Y?
Just Y. There we go. Here's a Y. Here's another Y. And another Y. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, at least now we know. Tell you what, Michael, since you're here, and I don't know if you have things to do or not, you might want to go ahead and jump in and do the recap. And we can go over the numbers when you're finished.
Okay. That sounds good.
If you'd like to do that, go ahead and take it away.
All right. I'd like to do that, and let me go ahead and take this stuff over here. Last night's meeting is up there. It is out there, by the way.
Okay.
So whenever you get a chance this weekend, put those things up. If you get a chance.
I'll do it.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, the 4th day of August, 2017. The 4th day of August. All right. Good Lord, where did the time go? What you're looking at is our homepage. Now, when you go to the homepage at CFRN.net, if you want to take the free trial, this little banner pops down right at the very top. It says sign up for the CFRN Live Training Room, 100% free trial. Use our indicators, learn our strategy. Just click here. And when you click there, you're brought to this page where we ask for your first name, your email address, and your phone number. Then click on Register Now. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. Okay, once you click that confirmation link, then we know that you are taking the trial. Okay? Let's see here. Okay, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. We had one trade that stopped out here on soybeans right at the very end. That brought us down from 250.250 down to 150.250. But we're -8 on the beans. We're +42 on the euro, and we missed a ton on the euro. And we're +42. -7 on crude, and +6 on gold. That got us to 152.50 on the morning. And today it took 17 minutes and one trade to get the goal for the day. That was a euro trade, and we got 16 ticks. But we had 16 trades this morning as well. So on the month now, we are at 801.25. That's over 4 days, averaging $200.31 a day. On the year, we're at 22,336. That's over 145 days, averaging 154 per day. 154 per day. Okay. Okay, now let's go through what we did and didn't do. On gold, we had a few spots here. This first one right here, we had 1 tick profit on that. This one right here, I only ended up with 5 ticks. I should have gotten more, but I think I did 2 euro trades in the time that this one gold trade happened. And gold and the euro both got killed at the same time. The euro really did, though. I mean, if you look at it on a larger time frame, look at this. Yeah. When the news came out this morning at 8:30, bam. The euro looks the same way. And that was it for the gold. We were +6 on the gold. Okay, on the euro, I'll give you that 15-minute view again. There. Look at it. Same thing. To come back here. All right. Now we had a bunch of activity here on the euro this morning. So right here was our first trade opportunity of the morning, and we took 16 ticks profit on that. There was another one right here that we missed, then one right here that we got 2 ticks on, I think. Then a break even, 2 there that we missed. There's another one here that we missed. And this one we got 6 ticks on. It'd bring us to 24, I think. Or, wait a minute, no, wait, let's go back. This one was a break even. This one was 2 ticks. This one was 6 ticks. Then this one was 10 ticks to bring us to 34. We missed this nice one right there. That would have been great to get. Got this for 2 more to 36. 1 here to 37. We missed this one. A break even. And 5 ticks there. Down to, I think, got us to 42. And that was where we stopped for the morning. There was a nice one right here while I was closing out the room. Would have been nice to get into that. During the break, I probably wouldn't have done this because the cycle was below the bias line and kind of flat, but there was a bounce off the BBC right there that didn't go anywhere, but I probably wouldn't have done it anyway. Okay, so we had a lot of activity on the euro this morning, and we were +42 on crude. Let's see. On crude, we stopped out here. First, hang on, let's go back here. On crude, we had a break even there, a break even there, and then I messed this one up here. I should have had my stop at break even. or not even taking the trade because it had already gone 4 ticks, and then I got in over here, so then I just got out with a 1 tick stop. So I stopped out there. I missed this beautiful long trade right here, and I stopped out there, putting me at -9. Had a break even there and a +2 right there to get me to -7. There was nothing during the break. Okay, and the soybeans, I missed this one. I was doing euro and gold when this one happened. The soybeans were really a mess in here anyway. But we got a higher swing in here. It came down, hit the BBC, then it closed up above the trend line, and it had blue on the cycle. So we went for it, and it never gave us enough to get the stop to break even, and it came down and stopped us out right there. I'll remove this now. Stopped us out right there. That was right at the end of the room this morning. Since then, it's pulled back up, tested the BBC, and it actually has a shorting opportunity right here. Okay, which it's not done anything. The ES, the last time I looked at it, the ES had not given a trade setup this morning, and it still is not given a trade setup this morning. Okay, so the ES is just a mess. All right, so that was our morning today. Now let me bring this back up. Okay, this is the spreadsheet. Goes back 4.5 years now. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. But today we're -8 on beans, +42 on the euro, -7 on crude, +6 on gold. 152.50 is what that comes up to. Oops. Today it took 17 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day, and we took a total of 16 this morning. So on the month now, we're at 801.25. That's over 4 days, averaging 200 per day. Okay, 200 per day. On the year, we're at 22,336. That's over 145 days, averaging 154 per day. 154 per day. Okay. Again, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Yeah, if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the home page here at cfrn.net. And when you go there, this banner is going to pop up right at the very top. All you got to do is click here and put in your name, your email address, and your phone number. Then click on register now. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay. If you don't click that confirmation link, you will not get a free trial. All right? All right. And that is that. So with that, I can pass it back out. Studio A, fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, overlooking the nation's largest city park.
Alrighty, and the recap of the recap was
17 minutes, 1 trade, $100.
Got it. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
A double name. Okay. Okay. With that said, the jobs report, guys, was good today. 16-year good. So the jobs, what were the exact numbers? Did you pull them up earlier?
I did. They're anticipating 182, and they got 209. That's a non-farm employment change.
Okay.
And the unemployment rate remains stable at 4.3.
Yeah. And so, because of that, there always has to be a reason for everything. I don't know what the reason is that Dunkin' Donuts is thinking about dropping donuts from its name, and they'll just be known as Dunkin', but they are considering that. But the Dow hit a record high after the jobs report. U.S. Treasury yields climb after better than expected jobs report. European markets close higher on earnings and U.S. jobs. Gold falls from a 7-week high after positive U.S. jobs data. The dollar surged on U.S. jobs data. And it's all about the jobs, man. Everybody's got a job. Amazon held this huge job fair this week, and it's interesting that we're at 16-year lows. Everybody that wants a job has a job, but the lines that they were showing on the news of all the people lined up at the Amazon job fair was, well, they were pretty long lines. People getting there mighty early to get a shot at a job, and I forget how many they were supposed to hire, but some of the people were like getting hired just like right on the spot. You know, no coming back for the second interview, or just, okay, you're hired. And one of the things about Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, and I heard someone state this that was standing in the line on the news, is that Amazon, once you're hired, your health insurance, which is of course a big issue in America today, kicks in immediately. Just boom. No waiting period, no nothing. Once you're hired, once you punch that clock the first time, you're in. So, there you go. That's the deal. Let's look at the numbers from around the world. I have a chart of the S&P 500 Emini Futures. Now, these are this week's zones. Our partners got these numbers Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. We went from zone to zone. Well, we'll do it the other way, I guess. We'll back it up. Here we go. We opened Sunday night, Globex trading, right above the zone, backed into the zone, traded in the zone, and then in one candle, shot right up to the zone overhead, walked along, back down to the zone, back up to the zone, back down to the zone, back up to the zone, walked the zone, dropped two zones, did an about face, ran back up two zones, back down to the zone, back up to the zone, back up to the zone. So really it's been all about this zone for the majority of the week, except for that one little spot where we dropped one more zone, missed it by a tick, and then came right back up. So did the zones work out well this week? Yeah, they did. Unfortunately, the market was stuck like glue pretty much inside of one zone that's only a 5-point zone. 69 to 74. It's 5 points. Ouch. Painful. Alright, if you can't see the chart I'm talking about, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions where it says watch live now, click that. Within 30 seconds you'll be registered for the rest of the month, which means you'll be able to join the show each day with one-click access. Okay, right from your inbox. The other option is to go to youtube.com/CFRN. In the upper left, you'll see a little chart where it says live. Click that, and you'll have access to the charts as well as the chat box. Okay? Alright. So, these are the numbers. We'll start here in the U.S. with the cash markets. The Dow currently up 33 points. NASDAQ up almost 9. S&P 500 up a little over 3. And the Russell 2000 up a little over 6. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 43 cents, trading 49.46 last. And gold, unfortunately, big down day for gold, down $11.90, trading 1262.50 last, which is still north of 1250, which is closer to 1300 than we were 7 weeks ago. So there you go. Now, as we look at the Asian markets, the Nikkei closed down 76 points on the session. Shanghai closed down 12. The Hang Seng closed up 31. No movers, no shakers. And in the U.S., the numbers I just gave you, there were no movers and shakers there. Okay. European markets are green wall to wall. We actually have movers and shakers there. The FTSE closed the session up 37 points. That's half of 1%. The DAX closed up 143 points. That's a little over 1%. And the CAC closed up 73 points. That is 1.5%. So Asia mixed, Europe green, and here at home, it's about as green as it gets. Unless you traded your Bitcoin in for Bitcoin Cash, and that's a coin of a different color. Bitcoin Cash, the new cryptocurrency, is crashing. Has crashed, is crashing. Will it continue to crash? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Bitcoin Cash, remember we forked the Bitcoin the other day. That means we split it. Bitcoin Cash has dropped 33% to $290 a coin over the past day, according to data from coinmarketcap.com. That's down from its all-time high of $727, which was set on Wednesday, a day after its debut. So from Wednesday, when it forked, okay, it hit a high of 727. This morning, hit 290. It could be even lower than that now, I don't know. On the other hand, the original Bitcoin, you know, the one we told you about years ago when it was $2, is up today almost 2%, trading at 2,850, how many? $2 per coin. Yeah, so it's only gone up $2,850 since we first mentioned it, $2,852. And in the interest of full disclosure, how much money did we make? Absolutely nothing. Why? Because we didn't buy any. And I remember in the audience, boy, they were so divided. Some were like, yeah, that's interesting. Gee, I wonder what will happen. And others were like, that's treason, that's insanity, that's stupidity. What are you, nuts? How dare you tell your audience about this Bitcoin? I didn't make up the Bitcoin. I'm just telling you about it. Just sharing the news. On Tuesday, Bitcoin split in two after a years-long battle in the cryptocurrency community over the rules that should guide Bitcoin's network. That split resulted in the creation of Bitcoin Cash, which was spun out of the same exact blockchain network as Bitcoin, almost like a carbon copy, but designed to process more transactions more quickly. Many folks in the community think Bitcoin's Cash's price has been inflated by issues with the technology underpinning the coin. When the cryptocurrency split, investors who stored their Bitcoin in digital wallets that supported Bitcoin Cash received 1 Bitcoin Cash coin for every Bitcoin. But many of them can't access their Bitcoin Cash coins, so they can't transfer them to exchanges where they can actively be bought and sold. According to Aaron Lasher, the CMO of Bread Wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, the price of Bitcoin Cash could drop even further once those coins enter the exchanges, based on simple economics. When more people look to sell a good than to buy it, Yep, the price falls. Samson Mao, the chief strategy officer at Blockstream, told Business Insider the Bitcoin Cash house of cards could fall apart and that the cryptocurrency was unlikely to survive at prices above $100 in the long term. And don't forget, they said some pretty ugly things about the original Bitcoin in the beginning. What happens this time? You're asking the wrong guy. We have some of our key traders telling us they will be getting out of their Bitcoin Cash positions by the 8th of August. August 8th is when SegWit, a software update for the original Bitcoin blockchain, is set to go into effect. We see the 8th of August as the day the bell tolls for Bitcoin Cash. If the price of BCC remains strong post the 8th, then it is likely to be a currency for a long time. Alternatively, we could see a consolidation in Bitcoin and see it run well past its peak. Let's take a look at the latest Bitcoin price just to see. $2,869.53. It's up $71 on the day. 2.5%. Oh my goodness. I should dig out some of those old radio shows when we first talked about it. I don't know why, so we could all sit around and cry. That's about all it would be good for, I guess. One second. I think John will be joining us in here in a second. Let's take a look at some of the other headlines. Not a lot to talk about with the S&P. I mean, just zone, the zone, the zone, the zone. Google was interested in buying Snap for at least $30 billion last year. They turned it down. Yeah. In case you don't know, Snap's not done so well since they went public. A controversial banker is the person who really runs Twitter, and he's gambling the company's future on one risky bet. COO Anthony Noto is going big on video. They say video is going to rule the internet. Apparently Anthony agrees. Coinbase has decided to add support for Bitcoin Cash by 2018. Many users were outraged by its initial decision not to support the Bitcoin offshoot. Yelp, I don't know if you've ever written a Yelp review or read a Yelp review, but that's a pretty nasty little industry. Because if you own a restaurant and a guy across the street runs a restaurant and he's got more customers than you do, you can go write a couple of nasty reviews about him under a pseudonym, and then pretty soon his customers come over to your restaurant, and back and forth and back and forth. People have actually been prosecuted for this and gone to jail. It's illegal, by the way. John has joined us. Let me open up his mic. John, welcome to the show.
Morning.
Hey, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks. The few things that I've been saying over the last few days seem to be resonating, i.e. that having achieved the 20, it's amazing how we've been hollering about getting to 22,000, you know, since November. And now that we're here, all these people come out of the woodwork and start saying all kinds of crazy things, like, you know, Jim Paulson, who I have a lot of respect for, and the Luthol Group, who I also think are one of the top institutions on Wall Street. I mean, in terms of getting it right, these guys are very, very good. I've actually known them for a long time, 30 years more. And you know, Laszlo Barini is another one. He's a very shrewd market analyst, and these guys have been very bullish on the markets right up to today. You know, there's another guy. There's a Lee. Lee is a analyst. I forget his first name. Tom Lee. He's been a resolute bull throughout. And kudos to them, like ourselves, you know, they've called it right all the way. But, you know, when you get to this level and you start saying, you know, the headline this morning is, I almost did a double take when I saw it. It's actually on Yahoo, I think. He's saying that the bull market might never end. I mean, jeepers, you know, you can't be saying stuff like this at the top of a market. It's just insane, you know. and it's sort of like magazine covers, you know, proclaiming 22,000. And not that I want to take any kudos away from the president, you know, overemphasizing the 22,000 is. You know, it's not a very good, you know, it's not good for the market. Here's what Paulson said: the bull market could continue forever.
You're breaking up on us a little bit there, John.
I don't know why. Do you want me to re-enter or?
Well, let's keep going. Yeah, I mean, you sound perfect now.
Okay, good. So, no, what I'm saying is, you know, he's saying the bull market could continue forever. Actually, I've never seen anybody ever say that at the top of a market. And as you know, the other day, Yellen came out and said she doesn't foresee another financial crash in our lifetime. That's also a kind of a, you know, that's what the guy said at the head of the New York Stock Exchange said, like a day before the top in 1929. You know, and so you know, it really, literally, it's true. And it's kind of like that patent office thing that you talk about from time to time too. But look, the conditions are very good for the market, and I totally listen. I'm saying that 22,000 is a waypoint, and we do not yet know whether we will see a pullback from these levels. We may do. So I said this would probably put a lid on the market for the time being. It certainly has done that in the last few days, notably. But if we were to, and I did say that we could go to 22,250 or to 22,200, somewhere like that. I wouldn't rule that out. But I think the market's going to have a hard time going up much more than that. You know, since we're running into mid-August to late August, we might be looking for an adjustment here. It doesn't have to happen, but it certainly is, you know, the odds are starting to favor it. And look, I mean, I don't understand why Trump's ratings have gone down to 38% yesterday on the Rasmussen poll. It just doesn't make any sense. But I am going to go out on a limb today and say we probably bottomed yesterday on Trump's ratings. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see quite a strong rebound from here over the next few weeks, for you know, based on the presidential tracking poll. And because it seems like you know, a little bit less drama in the last few days since John Kelly came into the White House, and the message, you know, some of Trump's tweets this morning are much more, you know, they're pretty varied and very good, and there's some very good retweets in there. I mean, as James Wood, who I'm a big fan of, says, you know, how can a guy who's given up, you know, he's working for free basically to make his beloved country better. And yet, he's never seen such hatred for somebody who's literally working for free for the benefit of everybody. And that's what people are not getting the memo on. Unfortunately, they don't know a good thing when they see it. And it'll sort of be, when we get maybe it's 4 or 8 years down the road, you get a new president, people will be saying, oh, God, I wish we had Trump back, because at least it was interesting and it wasn't boring while he was president. And nobody can say it's been boring. I said that a long time ago. I said, if this guy ever gets elected, it definitely won't be boring. And let's face it, the mainstream media are getting fat off Trump's controversies, which if they didn't have that, they wouldn't. CNN would be probably going out of business by now through lack of viewership. And MSNBC was already on the ropes. I mean, Trump has saved. He saved the New York Times. He saved the Washington Post. He saved the MSNBC and a lot of other stations that were, pretty much on the brink. And now and he saved the guy on CBS. Mm-hmm. He was about to get fired, I think. He was just about on the ropes. They were talking about putting James Corden in his time slot, maybe bring Conan back or something. Because I can't stand the guy, but it's amazing how I really am shocked that people actually watch this guy every night and have boosted his ratings. It's kind of amazing.
I don't know what anybody sees in that guy. But anyway,
yeah, he's a light. He's not. I guess the best analysis or appraisal of him is Letterman himself can't even bring himself to watch the show. He was horrified when this guy was brought on, and that's kind of the reason why he's kind of gone into hiding. He's gonna be a recluse because he just can't stomach it. It's just. He was he had his faults as well, but Letterman was a pretty awesome guy for the time that he was in the seat there, and to be followed by this guy was just diabolical. You got to hand it to Les Moonves. He's a pretty shrewd dude. He's done an incredible job with CBS getting the ratings. It's pretty much the most watched network these days, and he's and that used to be NBC's big claim, but not anymore, and by ABC's also. So CBS he's pretty shrewd. James Corden unfortunately has gotten on this Trump bandwagon as well. He's pretty, considering how young he is, he's a lot better than his predecessor, put it that way. But the late night scene, to be honest with you, has kind of gotten very gutterish lately, and is almost, I don't bother watching him anymore. It's just a waste of time watching stuff like that. Some other things today. Look, we had a bit of a rally in the bonds. Actually, if you can bring the daily bonds up. Treasury bonds. You might, yeah.
Yeah, let me get rid of all this.
I've been while you're getting the bonds up. I've been commenting on the Nasdaq, and the look, when you get a parabolic kind of an up move like we had in Amazon and Google and stuff. And I wouldn't say it's the end of the parabola necessarily. And then just going back to the 22K, look, if we do have a pullback or if we go sideways for a while and then people get used to the 22K and it doesn't get quoted every day anymore, then the market could probably go higher. And look, if they get this tax cut business, when I talked about suggestions for Trump to tweet out every day. You know, what he really needs to do is he needs to tweet out very basic things to say, do you want to pay more tax or less tax? You know, if you want to pay more tax, go with the Democrats. If you want to pay less tax, stick with the Republicans. Support me. Support me. If you want to pay less tax, support me and support the senators and congressmen. We'll get the job done. That's really the bottom line. And, you know, and what more importantly, you know, what's not being communicated is the benefit to the most needy, you know, the 90, 100 million people that are either not in the workforce, the unemployed, or the people who are struggling. You know, as I have quoted on the show, the original tax plan that Trump was planning would enable a family to earn $50,000 tax-free. And, you know, $50,000 for a family it's not that much today. It's, you know, by the time, you know, it's sort of barely above the poverty line. I mean, at least it's enough to put food on the table and enable them to have a car and get to work and stuff like that. But, you know, with all the incidentals, at the end of the year, they probably haven't saved too much. So enabling people, you know, it's a really great incentive for people who are at the bottom end of the scale to not have the worry or the cost of having to get an accountant to file taxes. If it can be done on a postcard, you know, bring it on. Mm-hmm. And if these people can really, you know, set a goal to earn 35,000 a year, or some, you know, personally, or a family of 50,000, that's an incentive, because it brings out the entrepreneurship in people to, you know, try and get a side job or work 2 or 3 jobs or whatever to at least, you know, because then if they start earning 60 or 70,000 a year and they're only paying 10% on that extra, you know, up to 100,000 or whatever the number is going to be, it might be 125. I mean, that's a heck of a deal. That really is going to transform the economy.
That's incentive. It is.
Yeah, it's going to put a lot more money in people's pockets, and it is going to incentivize the population and get business going more and more. So I'm all for that. And, you know, even though the Dems, you know, can't stand this idea, you know, whether you like it or not, giving tax cuts to the wealthy does improve the economy as well. And most importantly, dropping the tax rate down on the corporate tax rate down to 15% is going to be like the giant sucking sound that Ross Perot was famous for, about with jobs being sucked into Mexico. It's going to suck the jobs back from China and from Mexico and every place else back into the U.S., as is already happening and is starting to accelerate. So this is a really powerful trend that is an absolutely must do for this, you know, for the coming few, you know, in the coming few months. It has to be done. Now, the benefit of that is stock market goes higher, because as soon as the more certain this becomes, that this tax reform and tax cut becomes, the stock market is going to actually be undervalued. Even though it's at 22,000 today, you might be shocked at how much higher it will go. And I'm not, all I'm saying is we might be in for a bit of a pullback here. I'm just being realistic, and it will actually be the pause that refreshes. And if we just have a quick dip and then we go back up, it could be even more bullish, and it could drive the market substantially higher. You know, we've still got a very fertile investment environment. We've got almost record low interest rates. I mean, the Fed's rates hikes so far are immaterial, really. And that's the interesting thing, given that the average recession doesn't start until 47 months after the first rate hike, and we're only 20 months in. You know, we've almost got 3 years to go, technically, before we might go into a recession. However, if with all the stimulus still going on in Europe and in Japan and in Britain and elsewhere, it's sort of negating the negative actions of the Fed. And the Fed may be even helping behind the scenes without actually saying anything as well. So you could argue that maybe instead of being a 47-month post rate hike recession start, it might be 60 months. It might be actually 6 years. That takes us to my time frame of 21, 22, where I believe we are going to run into problems. So listen, I agree with Paul Paulson and the Luthol Group that the market has way much more upside potential. But, saying that the bull market's going to last forever, that's just not going to, I mean, I'll bet you right now that sometime in 22, 23, this market's going to take a tumble that will be epic. Might be the biggest drop we've ever had.
Trees don't grow to the sky, that's for sure.
Right. But it might still be a long ways off, and that's the point. But listen, a whole lot of stuff. Look, if a shooting war starts overnight in Korea, the market will probably drop 1,000 points right away. Now it'll probably recover pretty quick, but just it's an automatic. I mean, as soon as any kind of a war starts anywhere, markets go down almost immediately, and they usually go back up once, after a few days. They tend to go back up, especially if the war is going, the right way. So that's important. But look, no matter what happens, as I've said on this show, it's too easy to get caught up with no matter who you support. I don't like to see a lot of the stuff that we see going on today with Trump, and going after him, I think, is very misplaced, and certainly not appreciative of the fact that he is working for free and that he's done an incredible job so far, even though the people don't understand that or don't realize that. It's all for the good, and unfortunately he's got a few quirks, and as all presidents do, and you have to give him a little bit of leeway there for that as well. But it's all well intentioned. I think nobody can say that's not his manner and his demeanor all the time. But if the worst comes to the worst, with a service like you offer, Dwayne, as I've said before, I could bet the house that whenever this market turns, whether it turns up or down, you're going to be there, as I am, in calling these turns. And so the main objective, the main goal here is to benefit our listeners and our followers to the utmost degree, and make this service what it deserves to be, and get the respect and following of 10 times or 20 times more people than we already have over the next few years, because at the end of the day, making money sort of mitigates anything bad that might be happening anywhere else. It's all about protecting your own family, yourself, your health, and your well-being, so that you enjoy your life no matter what's going on around you, because you can only be responsible for yourself. You can't change what's going on in Washington. It's going to happen almost one way or another. If anything really bad happens, it could have dire consequences for the U.S., because there's a lot of very passionate people out there who are very pro-Trump. He's one of the most adored presidents in history by the people who like him. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. I mean, look at the response he got in this speech last night. I mean, people were shrieking. I mean, screaming with delight at a lot of the things that he was saying. I mean, it was riveting, and that's a very powerful thing. And so, that's there's 150 million people or more, maybe a couple of 100 million people out there who are very, very pro-Trump. So if anything happens, I mean, you don't want another civil war in this country, but it's something you can't rule out, because if they get cheated, if the people behind Trump get cheated out of a presidency, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a Democrat. I'll tell you that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. What's this business about these phone calls that were supposedly leaked between Trump and President of Mexico and the President of Australia. What was the story behind that?
Well, listen, there's somebody really bad in this White House, and somebody was saying it might be McMaster, who I personally don't like this guy. I mean, I'd rather have Flynn back in 5 seconds than this guy. I mean, Flynn was a loyalist. This guy you can't trust him, and he's I don't think he's really pro-Trump, and to have a guy in national security like that is very, very risky in my view, and he has some diverging views on versus Trump. So I really am sure I'm kind of aghast that he hired this guy in the first place. He doesn't elocute very well, and he's a couple of times he's stumbled when he's making announcements and acted nervous, and I think that it's very telling. But some people are starting to figure this guy out, and somebody in there has access to all this information and is leaking it out. And it's possible somebody even said Priebus could be leaking this. He's out now. He knows what happened. He's got a transcript of those calls. So how come they suddenly showed up? That doesn't sound very good either. But the third explanation is that some Obama holdovers who were in the White House when those phone calls were made might be the real source of where these leaks came from. But it's an absolute disgrace to have, the President of the United States, for God's sake, he can't even make a secure call. What is the world coming to? I mean, it's like Princess Diana. I mean, when she was first, intercepted with talking to Prince Charles and things like, and then he was intercepted talking to Camilla and saying all kinds of crazy things. I mean, I was totally shocked that that could happen. I mean, you think of the royal family is getting monitored. I mean, give me a break. And so there's nobody safe from this anywhere. It doesn't matter, even Putin or Xi, President Xi or anybody else. There's no safe haven. And it's very troubling that Trump can't make a call to a leader without, with absolute security. I mean, it's diabolical. I mean, what happens when a war starts? And this, we already had some people. The people got killed, like that raid, that Marine, or that SEAL that died in Yemen. That was because somebody leaked to the other side that there was going to be a raid on this compound. That's why, because they pretty much, it was kind of a walkover, and all of a sudden they're met with unbelievable resistance that wasn't, that just didn't come out of nowhere. Somebody knew they were coming. It was basically an ambush. And this is so. I mean, you start to ask, can the Navy, if Trump gives an order, is that going to be picked up somewhere around the world? I mean, this is really it's got a. I don't know how to get around it, but it's an incredible situation. I mean, we got a lot of problems in the world.
Yeah, we do.
And we got a lot of bad people who just are, have very, very troubling agendas, put it that way.
We had this jobs report today, 16-year low, but yet Amazon's been having this jobs fair this week, and my goodness, have you seen the lines? The lines of people that have lined up? Maybe they want it for the health insurance. My understanding is the second you get hired, you're covered, and that's certainly a big issue in America today.
Oh, I was going to comment about the Amazons and the Googles of the world. When you get this actually, just to give you an idea, the drug stocks, went parabolic in 2014, and then they kind of imploded, and they really, it took 2 years for them to recover. And in a way, the same sort of thing has happened to Google and Amazon here in the last week or so. I'm not saying it's the end, if they can recover these gains and get back to making new highs again, then it would probably be even more bullish. But it's a little bit troubling that we've had this $100 drop in Amazon from where we shorted it. I might remind people we held it all the way up to 1082. The high was 1083. We shorted it, and we not only recommended selling it at 1082, but shorting it as well. And it dropped exactly $100 down to 982. And it is subsequently, then we covered it and reversed for a rally up to 1002, went back short. And I said last night, it's probably going to rebound today, so we can cover your shorts again. But be ready to resell, because look at the NASDAQ. Again, right now, it is sort of slumping a bit. And, the reason I'm a little bit concerned about the 22,000 and everything else is if we do break down on the NASDAQ from here next week, it's obviously going to take the FANGs down with it. And they might be in for another leg down. You could have another 100-point drop in Amazon. And then we could have a big rally off that thereafter. But when these parabolic moves kind of stop, they tend to have fairly devastating consequences. And it's a lot of selling right now, because look, the fellows who are running these funds haven't, they weren't born yesterday. They've seen a thing or two, and they kind of know what happens when these parabolas are inverted. It's like lumber. Remember when we were talking about lumber going up dramatically when it went limit up for a few days a while back, and then it suddenly went limit down, and I said that's a very bad sign when that happens. When you go from limit up to limit down, that's just that is really the kiss of death. And take a look at the chart. I mean, lumber's gone way down since, but it actually has started coming back up again in the last few days, although I think it took a dip again yesterday. So, this is what happens when parabolic moves, and they don't recover easily by any means. So, and it's kind of like China. I mean, remember when China went up 100% a couple of years ago? The Chinese, give them a lot of credit. They've managed to get the bull market restarted, and look at what happened to Baidu since. It's leading the Chinese market back to its all-time highs, which is great. But that's kind of an unusual thing. Usually markets don't come back that quick as China did.
Yeah, China's a pretty incredible story in and of itself.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
And it's not slowing down.
Nope. And it's the good thing about China in a way is it is like the US of the 20th century. Because if the rest of the world didn't exist, the US would still be a pretty big deal, because it is a growing economy, if you like. It is a self-sufficient economy in a lot of ways. And China is it's not relying so much on exports anymore. It's because its internal economy is growing and is compensating for that more and more. In other words, just serving its own population, which is massive, 4 times the size of the US, is actually, potentially a massive growth story still to come in the next 10, 20 years, especially if the middle class, gets up towards 1 billion people. And not only that, the amount of wealth that's been created in China. I mean, look, it took the U.S. Decades to grow the number of millionaires and the wealth of millionaires. The number, I think they've still got more millionaires than China, but the actual wealth of the millionaires combined cumulative wealth is now greater in China than in the US. That is really a huge thing. That's it's just, and look, there's an awful lot of billionaires in China. I mean, there's about 350 or 400 billionaires in China now. I mean, this is in 10 years. 10 years to create these billionaires, literally. It's been incredibly rapid for these guys. Much like the Russians, you haven't heard about too many new Russian billionaires lately, because most of these billionaires in Russia got rich in the in the late 90s and the 2000s, when the Russian market went up 100 times, 100-fold from the 98 bottom. And in a way, China's gone up, with equal amount of, not quite as dramatically, but being such a much bigger deal, which is such a much larger population, China's growth and wealth creation has been like nothing ever seen on Earth. And not more importantly, bringing 400 or 500 million people out of poverty is a staggering accomplishment. And it's a double-edged sword, because China can't afford to let to go backwards, if you like, or to have a really big correction and put hundreds of millions of people out of work, because they'll really have a big problem if that happens. So, if they keep pushing, this is why I think we're in the greatest era in history right now, because we do have this synchronized global recovery going on that's never happened before, quite like this. And with all this monetary stimulus helping things go this way, it's going to lift a lot of people out of poverty, and also create enormous amounts of wealth for the betterment of everybody. So on that note, I'd probably say have a great weekend. And
did you hear about the remember the WannaCry? In fact, I think
ransomware.
Yeah. The British security researcher who stopped the cyber attack, Big Hero, has now been arrested for allegedly creating a different malware. The guy's name is Marcus Hutchins. He's accused of creating the Kronos banking Trojan.
Huh. Boy.
I've always jokingly said that these antivirus companies like McAfee have two divisions. One division
the guys
writes,
who make the viruses, and the other,
and the ones that cure them. Yeah, but,
it's like the people who do the glass repairs on car screens, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought of another thing there.
Walk by and ping it with a hammer, and then leave a card under your under your windshield wiper. Yeah, sad, but true. I think.
Well, it's almost like the arsonist. There was a fellow there who was actually a hero firefighter, and he was a fellow who was lighting all the fires. Seattle.
That's a true story. That is. Have you been following this cryptocurrency thing this week?
Not really.
Bitcoin Cash, the Bitcoin Cash, the spinoff, where they split it. That thing's crashing like crazy, and Bitcoin itself's up like $70 today.
How does that Bitcoin Cash thing work?
You know what? You should Google it up and let them give you a decent explanation. Because if I try to explain it to you, I'll just confuse you. But if you read an article on the internet over the weekend, and then we'll talk about it Monday.
Okay, just a couple of things. The energy sector, sort of, you almost have to buy every.
You wanted me to bring up the bonds, the daily chart here, which I did. Was there something you wanted to point out in that?
Yeah, just a minute. I've got to pick you up here. Hang on a minute. Okay, here we go. Yeah, do you see how we had the big break from the top at 157?
Uh-huh.
Off that little double top there.
Yep.
And then we basically had a kind of an ABC correction here, upward correction, and we started down again.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we break 154 and start falling back down towards 152, I think this goes all the way to, see that support line you got there at 150. I think it comes back to test that.
Yep. Right across.
And then that's going to be the make or break, because either, because you could argue, you could actually argue we're still in a bull market in bonds, and this is just a pullback down to the 150, and then we could resume the uptrend just like we did off the last time. See that? Mm-hmm. In fact, look how we had a three-wave pullback before off that last rally back in April in 12. See that? And then we went all the way back up, and then we've had this very long correction here. We've had this very, different type of correction.
Retrace,
right.
Leg, and a retrace, a leg.
So, but here's the thing: if we break down, back to the 140s, probably going to go down to 145. Actually, if we break down and we start heading for 145, you're going to see a much stronger stock market. This is what I've been waiting for, and it still could happen, because we're only August the 4th today, and we've still got a couple of weeks. If the bonds started breaking down here, we could have a couple of hectic up weeks in the market still.
Well, did you read Greenspan's remarks about?
I did.
The bond bubble?
And that's sort of part of the deal here, that there could be a crash in bonds, listen, in 87, the bond crash didn't really get going until late August, September, and then it went into a free fall, and that's what people don't understand. I mean, if we suddenly get a 3.6% GDP showing up in the third quarter, and we get interest rates start rising, and the dollar starts tanking, you've basically got the same formula that happened in 1987. You got a trifecta, of negatives that ultimately caused, a pretty big correction. And we could have I've said a long time ago, we could have a minor version of this, or even a major version of it later this year, just depending on what might happen. You might get you get some sort of a black swan event come out of nowhere that could definitely create a setback in this market. So, and it's interesting that remember that in 2007 we were actually in a free fall by this point from the July 19th top on the way down to August 16th, and then August 16th we rallied strongly. And by the way, August, because all these politicians have gone away now, they really can't screw up the economy while they're on vacation. And this is one reason why mid-August actually can be a positive, can be the bottom of the market. This is what, remember, because August the 12th, 1982, there wasn't any better bottom than that in all of history, just about. That was the liftoff from the 777 bottom on the Dow, and not too long after that we were over 1,000, and within 9 months we were at 1,300 or going on 1,400. So we had a meteoric rise, and something like that could happen, later this month, and it could defy all logic, and there's no guarantees we're going to have a sell-off in September just because we have in previous years. As I said, last year we actually had we didn't have a serious sell-off, but we had a mild sell-off from August onwards. So the odds this year actually are kind of opposite. It could be. And if we did somehow, and look, there's a lot of cycle bottoms, or a lot of cycles coming into place around mid-August. If they suddenly turn out to be a bottoming cycle rather than a topping cycle, that could be a big deal. Maybe we go, what if we went sideways, or even if we went down a little bit into an August bottom and then took off again? between now and the 12th of August, or middle of August. So, you know, August is not necessarily a bad time for the market. I mean, you go back to 2007, take a look at the bottom we put in mid-August. It was August the 16th, and it was a massive bottom, and we went all the way back up. I mean, we had a 10% correction from July the 19th down to that bottom, and then we went up to a new all-time high by November, 10th of November. But it was, you know, doomed after that. I wouldn't say that necessarily the same thing is going to happen to this market this year, but certainly, you know, regardless of the fact that we could have a correction here in the next week or two, or month or two, whenever, you know, the likelihood is for the market to go higher into year's end, because we really are on a mega. I mean, look, we've had the mother of all summer rallies so far, which we were calling for a long time ago, and it's turned out to be tremendous. And look, even what if Amazon dropped another 10% and Google the same? You know, that if they were screaming for this stock 20% higher a few weeks before that, believe me, there'll be a lot of support for those stocks, you know, off another correction, which could come in the next couple of weeks. And after that, we could really roar higher again in this market.
You know, I don't know if you can still see the chart here, but this is the S&P 500 for this week. It's
right.
It stayed pretty much stuck inside of this one weekly trading zone almost all the week, from the top to the bottom, back to the top. We had this one instance
like I
where
said,
we dropped to the
22,000. Absolutely,
right
it's amazing. It's put an absolute lid on this market. Now, if that lid breaks to the upside, think about that.
Yeah.
If it breaks to the downside,
break up,
equally.
break down, either one. I'm okay, because we're flat at the end of the day. So,
yeah,
you know, and then as soon as the markets reopen at 6 p.m. Eastern, then it's a new day, and we're ready to go again.
Yeah. But what I would say is the next move off this consolidation is probably going to be a big one. So try be ready to be on it, because I mean, if it's a continuation to the upside, it could be really big. You know, we could be in for what I would call almost a maniacal rally in stocks. You know, the run for the roses kind of thing.
All right, John.
Okie doke. Listen, have a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you next week. Much obliged.
Yep.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend. Talk to you next week. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, on the S&P, here is last night's Concierge Trade Alerts. They got out at 8 p.m. Eastern, because we had the Partners Workshop at 9. So I always like to get them out when I can before, because I don't get them out before, then they got to go out after. So if you want to grab a screenshot, you can. It's right there. Snap. Okay. All right. 2471, and we went up to the zone at 74. So I mean, if you just traded it up to the zone, there was 3 points. It then came back down, got below the trigger. Important prices, important areas, almost always tested, and then back up to the zone, which would be another 3-point move. I understand 3 points, not an incredibly huge move, but in this market, you take what you can get. Now, the actual swing high, well, here, before you get a big, see on this retracement, if you're trailing your stop pretty close, especially because you're around the zone, then you're going to get taken out somewhere on this pullback. But the swing high actually went all the way up to 2477, which is 6 points. Which again, in this market, it's pretty outstanding. And here we got up to 75.50, so that's 4.5. So 2 tradable moves in the S&P. For the S&P of late, that's not bad. One last little piece of news here, and then we'll run through the rest of the alerts and go to our good word for the day. There once upon a time was a sleepy Vermont town. They had a mayor by the name of Chris Loris, who thought he had a pretty good idea. I guess I should say the former mayor of Rutland, Vermont. He had a plan to bring 25 Syrian refugee families to town. Many of the residents criticized Loris over what they saw as the secrecy in which the plan was being carried out. The issue divided the town into 2 camps, with both sides furious with the other. A recent town meeting devolved into insults and shouting. I don't know if any tomatoes were thrown. Loris lost his re-election bid, and only 3 of the 25 families ever made it to Rutland, Vermont. Now, the plan was supposed to revitalize the economy of a sleepy Vermont town and give its small workforce a much-needed boost. It seemed like a win-win, at least to the mayor, Chris Loris. But when the 5-term mayor announced in April 2016 that 25 refugee families would be coming to the struggling post-industrial town, he awoke fear and vitriol that eventually cost him his job. This was around the time Donald Trump, then a candidate for the Republican nomination, proposed national bans on refugees and immigrants from certain majority Muslim countries. Rutland became a referendum on the nation's willingness to welcome displaced people from around the world. Some in the town formed a group called Rutland Welcomes, a volunteer group that planned to help find housing and transportation and jobs for the prospective refugees, and even gave the few who managed to arrive, 4 families out of the 25, baskets of fruits and vegetables. Those against the plan formed the Rutland First, a loose-knit coalition of residents whose opinions ranged from skepticism as to whether Rutland could bear the cost of resettling the refugees to outright hostility and fear-mongering. Then on March 6 came the mayoral election. Loris, an Army veteran who had been a popular and uncontroversial mayor for a decade, was ousted by Alderman David Allaire, who had lost to Loris in 2 previous elections. Allaire clobbered Loris, centering his campaign on opposition to the plan, which he criticized for freezing out the board of aldermen and Rutland residents. The election was absolutely a referendum on refugees. That's according to Jenny Gartner, who's a local high school history teacher and also a representative of the Rutland Welcomes group. So she was pro bringing the 25 families into Rutland, Vermont. Allaire's election win, combined with Trump's travel ban barring refugees from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, including Iraq and Syria, all but decided the issue. Only 3 refugee families, 2 Syrian and 1 Iraqi, have been resettled so far. Now, this was an American town like any other. In 2015, Loris had an idea to fix the town's unhealthily low unemployment rate. Rutland was shedding population. Since the 70s, 16% of its people had moved away, leaving homes empty and nearby businesses looking for workers. That's the story of many small post-industrial cities that have a declining population as well as a graying population. Laura spotted an opportunity to get Rutland involved in the U.S.'s newly announced plan to resettle thousands of refugees from the Middle East. Rutland's businesses have tons of open entry-level jobs, and the town has cheap vacant housing stock for 3,000 additional residents. Loris thought refugees would be the perfect candidates to fill the jobs and the empty homes. So again, while only a few refugees actually made it to town before Loris was ousted, those who did confirmed Loris's intuition. One refugee who arrived in January secured a full-time job at the Bakery, a popular local cafe, within weeks. He now splits his time between an early morning baking shift and English language classes. What Loris didn't count on was that Rutland's debate would get sucked into a larger divide stretching across the country. A month after Loris presented his plan, the town, much of it divided between Rutland Welcomes and Rutland First, began to unravel. Many accused Loris of hatching the plan in secret. The national story out there is that we're hateful and biased, and that's just bull, according to Wendy Wilton, a member of Rutland First. We just wanted to know what was in that application. And things just went downhill from there. Here's a town that needs workers, has cheap housing, and the refugees, it does seem like, a made-to-order solution if there was some way to vet these individuals, these families, to determine if they were really seeking a place to live and a place to work, a place to raise their families, a place to create memories, or if they had some other nefarious reason for showing up as they did, or wanting to show up. You see the dilemma? It's the problem our nation faces, but in a microcosm, and it's kind of easier to wrap your arms around it when you think of it as just a small town, just 25 families. They weren't going to be taking anybody's jobs. Business owners there can't find workers. Homes stand vacant. Nobody to live in them. What seems like a perfect situation. I'm not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not signing off on it. I'm not saying it's a great idea, and I'm not saying that they should have moved forward with the plan. If I had to be on one of the teams, Rutland Welcomes or Rutland First, I would probably have to go with Rutland First. Simply because there is no method in play. No one knows a man's heart but God. So are these people coming to build or destroy? You don't know. And I don't care how many psychological tests you give them, and, you can give brain scans. I don't care. There's no way you can know what's in a man's heart unless you are God. Which takes us to our good word for the day. That's what I'm thinking. We talked about avoiding strife last time. Strife is the taker of life. It creates stress, and stress takes more lives than cancer and heart disease combined. Stress is the creator in many cases. Man, that stuff he was worried about, it just ate him alive. Yeah. True story. So today, let's talk about intolerance. See, this whole thing with the refugees, some people are very tolerant. They're not, well, hey, if they come to blow us up, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, yeah, there is. But in Acts 10:34, it says, God shows no partiality. Okay. But now he's God and he knows everything. We're not God and we don't. Tolerance is not just about agreeing to embrace our differences. It's about accepting the other person's right to believe as they wish and to behave according to those beliefs. One of the great tests of spiritual maturity is our willingness to love and pray for those whose beliefs and behaviors are unacceptable to us. Instead of condemning people who err, we should see them the same way we see a blind man walking toward a cliff's edge. Our reaction should not be to condemn him, but to have compassion and try to show him a safer route or route. Depends on where you come from. Now, let's be clear. This is very important. Compassion is not compromise, any more than we could accuse God, who loves sinners and hates sin, of compromise. Why don't we just emulate our Heavenly Father? In the first century, Jews looked down on Gentiles and referred to them as dogs. Matthew 15:26, but Jesus came and redeemed those dogs and turned them into disciples. When Cornelius the Gentile summoned Peter the Jew to his home, Peter was reluctant to go. He explained, "You know how unlawful it is for a Jewish man to keep company or one of another nation. But God has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean." Acts 10:28. God was uprooting embedded traditions and opening up new opportunities for the gospel. Peter continued in Acts 10:34. "In truth, I perceive that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, whoever fears him and works righteousness is accepted by him." Could it be that God wants to expand the borders of your mind for his glory? If you're open to it, he will bless you. Now, see, this puts us in a perilous position, doesn't it? Scripture encouraging us to be that good Samaritan. But you see, the good Samaritan, he wasn't strapped up. So this is something that I really encourage you to think about and pray about. Now, our president, the man that we voted for, that we the people put in office. I know not everyone voted for him, but a lot of the people who tune into this radio program did and stand behind him. Some may have changed their mind. Some may not be as certain as they once were. But every time there's another terror attack, every time that another car drives into a crowd of people, every time another gun is fired or a bomb goes off, where do you stand? What should we do? What is the answer? Read the scriptures. Matthew 15:26 through 28, Acts 10:28, Acts 10:34 through 35, and see what God speaks to your heart. in how we should deal with this issue. Do I think these scriptures are telling us that we should throw open our borders and let anyone who might want to do us harm come waltzing in? No, not at all. Not at all. God not only gave us a heart, He gave us a brain. And I think He wants us to use both. And this is a matter of life and death. It really is. So pray on it, think about it, and when you have the solution, let me know. We'd all love to know the solution. That is our good word for the day. Okay, so on the S&P, consider buying 2471. Had a 6-point move higher. Price got back below the trigger, ran up 4.5 points, and has just kind of rolled sideways since then. And one last time, here's a look at the week. Sunday night Globex open, right there. We dribbled out of just below the zone right there and right there. But straight up to the zone, straight back down, sideways, back up, down, back up. Covered 2 zones. That was a big day. In fact, from 9:30 a.m. Eastern, August 2nd, 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. that afternoon, we had managed to travel from 2474 down to 63. Call it 10 points. 10 points down, 10 points back up. Now, that used to be a very common occurrence. Happened all the time. No big deal. Until the market can blow through this top and then hold on a pullback, so that buyers are no longer afraid to buy and sellers are no longer afraid to sell, until we can get the river flowing. And we have to deal with what lies inside of whatever zone. Because there's been weeks of this. Having these at the beginning of the week can be beneficial. When this thing starts to climb, it gives you a pretty good idea of where it's heading, and when it starts to fall, the same is true. Okay, alright, let's look at the Dow real quick. Okay, on the Dow. Okay, last night, 8 o'clock, right there. So when the alert went out. Okay, and the email said to consider buying 21,975. Now keep in mind, we never get out at the swing high or the swing low. If you figure out how to do that, we all want to know. We trail our stop and or trade to a fixed target. Either way, you will almost always leave something on the table. Okay? And some people have a very difficult time getting over that emotional hurdle. Man, I can't believe. Yeah, well, believe it. Don't think about what you left on the table. Think about the profit that you were able to take out of the market. Okay? So when we first triggered 21,975, put in a high up at 9.99. So that would be 24 points. Price then went right back below the trigger, took off again, back below the trigger, took off again, back below the trigger, and we put in this high at, I mean, there's several opportunities in there. I won't point every one of them out. This one got up to 16. So 25, 35, 40, 41. Then back below the trigger. And the big move, well, we'll go right here. 41. So we're talking 41 and 25. 66. Okay. Back below the trigger. And then immediately a pullback that if you were trailing your stop, okay, you're taken out here. If you left your stop here, wherever you had your stop, then it's possible you could still be in the trade. But this one ran up to, where do we go? 13, 25, 35, 38. So were there some long possibilities on the Dow? Yes. Are we at all-time record highs on the Dow? Yes. What's the ultimate outcome going to be? If anybody tells you anything other than wait and see, well, everybody that says we're going higher will say, see, I was right. And then the other half of the camp who said, I told you we were going lower, well, they'll tell you that they were right as well. That's how that works. Okay? All right. Soybeans. Pretty flat. All right, on soybeans, we were looking to be buyers at 972, and that did not happen. Or sellers at 953. That did not happen. And so, after a pretty nice day yesterday for soybeans, there was no trigger. This isn't unusual after a nice move like this to have a day of consolidation. Not unusual. Bonds taking a drop on the jobs report today. There's 8 p.m. last night. And the email said consider selling 154.22. Now, 154.22 should be right about there. Almost. $154.22. Okay. Bonds paid $31.25 per tick. There are 32 ticks to a point. If you're new to trading, consider trading something other than the bonds. Now this first drop, now you see here at 153.22, the swing low was actually 153.22. That's exactly on the nose, $1,000 per contract. Okay, so is that a good thing? Yeah, of course it is. $1,000 per contract available. All right. Now, if you were trailing your stop relatively close, and you didn't see this 1,000, okay, and we never get out of the swing high or swing low anyway. So this first move down, what did that take us to? It took us to a low of 154.07. So that would be 15 ticks. $15 times 31.25 per tick. Nothing wrong with that. Nice day's work. Price pulls back, you're trailing your stop, takes you out, and then it drops $1,000 per contract. You're like, oh man. Again, you cannot let that drive you crazy, because if you let it, I promise you it will. Alright, here's the big move on gold. Yo, look at that. Alright, 8 o'clock, that's when the alerts went out. And on gold we said to consider selling 1270. Here. Now, had we made it all the way down to 1260, oh, we made it all the way down to 1260. Look at that. That's $1,000 per contract available. However, you know the deal. We don't get out of the swing high or the swing low. Now, you did have a little pullback on the way down, right here. Alright, so at this point, from 1270 down to $66.50, that's $350 per contract. That's not bad. But again, looking back at what you left on the table, don't even think of it in those terms. Okay. I hit my goal for the day. I'm happy and I'm done. This and this, you know, and you're not going to get all the 350 if you're trailing your stop. You know, maybe you're taking out right here. Maybe you're taking out here. Depends on how closely you're trailing. Maybe you're taking out here. Whatever profits you take, be happy. Alright, so that's gold. Got a couple more to go. Got the Russell. Russell didn't do a whole lot today. Consider buying 1411. That's right where we're at right now. Okay. Next would be Crude, I guess, or the NQ. Look at the NQ. Boy, not much there. NQ, consider buying 58.95. 58.95. Put in a high at 59.06. Now that's not a bad move at $20 per point. Then we get back below the trigger and up we go again, and this time we hit 59.12. And then back below the trigger, and this time 59.09. Okay, on the short side for the NQ, we're looking to sell 58.73, and that never triggered. Okay. Okay, I think the last one is going to be Crude. Yep. Okay. Okay. All right. Consider selling 48.75. 48.75. Okay. Swing low. Actually, this got back above the trigger here. So let's just look at the swing low here. Here, let me write it down. Sell 48.75. I'll give you another chance to take a screenshot here in just a second, in case you missed it the first go around. So low is 56. So that's $190 per contract available. And then price gets back above the trigger, and this closes here, opens here, drops to here before it begins the climb. So the low here is 48.50. So that's 250 per contract available. Okay. On the long side, consider buying 49.10. Swing high was 49.59, so that would be $490 per contract available. Okay, so that does it. That covers them all. Everyone. Okay, if you want to grab a screenshot, go ahead. Here's Wednesday and Thursday. Okay, now It is the weekend, so being that it is the weekend, you know the deal. Got to spend some quality time with your family. It's very important. Of course, I will see you all in church on Sunday. If you have not taken the trial in the live training room, that's where we do rules-based trading. Go to apply.cfrn.net. apply.cfrn.net. You'll be able to download a platform, get the indicators up and running over the weekend. If you need help with that, give Bert or Leslie a call at 866-928-3310. If you already have Ninja, our indicators do work with Ninja. When you get your email, welcome you to the free trial. It will give you all the instructions and directions. Just make sure you're going to get 2 emails. You'll get one, it'll come automatically. It'll just say, hey, welcome, howdy. And then we will manually send you an email. It's rather lengthy, okay, for a reason, because there's some instructions there. Are you going to take a demo trial of the DT Pro platform, or do you already have Ninja? If the broker that you currently use, if whoever your broker is, if they clear through Gain Capital, they have a platform that looks identical to the one that you see me using here and that you see Michael using in the live training room. Check with your brokers, see if they clear through Gain Capital, and you'll be able to use the platform that you have. If not, follow the instructions in the email, or just call Bert and Leslie. They'll help you get the DT Pro demo up and running. 866-928-3310. Again, thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
There is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.